Hey, hey, can you hear me, Deb?
Hey, hey, hey. Hi, guys. How are you all doing out there? Welcome, welcome, welcome to another gym time. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me
Yeah, I
okay?
think that there's a bit of a I think there's a little bit of a delay or something. But welcome to gym time, guys, with myself, Debbie, and my brother.
Maurice, nice to see you all again. It's a blessing to be here. Even though I can't see you, you know what I mean? Who have we got in the chat?
There's a little bit
Who
of
has
a
joined
delay,
us?
but we'll have to just work with it. It always seems to be a little bit of technical
Okay.
problem. But yeah, I'm glad to be on. How are you doing?
Hot. And I'm not complaining.
I hope not.
Far from complaining. No, 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 no. But the weather's hot up here as well.
Yeah, absolutely
Um,
is.
do you know they've
But
changed the
I dare not
design again
complain.
on this?
Say that again.
Have you noticed? They've changed the design on this again. Yeah.
Mm, no, I haven't.
Yeah, I've noticed
So
it.
let's get
But
cracking. Let's get cracking.
yes,
So, got another hot topic for you guys out there, and I think that it's one of those conversations that people probably have these conversations. I think about toxicity in relationships. So we're going to be talking about toxic love tonight, and are you in a toxic relationship? And even though we are going to be focused
mm,
on relationships, husbands and wife, partners and so forth, toxic relationships are across the board. It's not just exclusive to spouses, to couples. You can have
that's
toxic
right.
relationship with family members and friends. But we are going to look at toxic love and how that impacts our relationships, and whether you are in a toxic relationship, and really what to do if you are in one. Naturally, if you're married, you're not going to just divorce, or we hope not. So we're going to look to see if we can give you some advice and some, I was going to say tips and tricks, but it's not really tips and tricks. Do you know what I mean? I would say it's advice. um so yeah, I will pass over to you, Paul, so you can do the disclaimer, and then I will do my disclaimer.
All right. Okay. Hello, 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 everybody. It's good to see you all. No, I'm in that kind of mood tonight, because when I'm hot and it's like, I feel in a joking mood. Though, I'll be honest. Um, right. So my disclaimer tonight is don't cut my neck. No, not really. We're
What's
here to
that?
motivate and empower you to um, get you to talk with your partner, to look at things from a different perspective. We are not always right as individuals, okay? So being able to get some pointers and some tips to be able to navigate your, if you're having problematic issues, whether with family or whether with your partner, we're here to try to guide you and steer you in a way that you can challenge yourself and open up your mind to different possibilities of dealing with your issues. Um, but I always say that if you apply some of these things that we say and it don't work, don't cut Winnick. We're here to just give you pointers. We're here to try to um, give you a foundation that you can springboard off and make it your own. If the way that we say it doesn't work, you are an individual and you can do that for yourself. So that's my disclaimer for tonight.
Yeah, and just pretty much the same as my brother. We are here to encourage you, uplift you, motivate you, but really and truly, we're here to support you on your journey in your relationships. And, this is what the podcast is about. It's about us, you, we're all on a journey. And so, whatever we share on here, we hope that it will help you on your relationship. Whether you're married, whether you're planning on being married, we're hoping that this will support you in it. And yeah, that my one is my catchphrase, as they say, is I don't know everything, but what I do know I hope that that will help you. So, and I will share it with you. Simple. So let's get cracking. Go ahead, Paul. I'll let you kick off tonight.
Well, as you said earlier, we're talking about toxic love. Are you in a toxic relationship? So first of all, um, there's a word that, do excuse me when I go to say it if it doesn't come out completely right. I've been practicing it all day, you know, because that's what happened. As some of you know, I had a stroke, and sometimes certain words that I would fly off my lips won't do it anymore. But I've been practicing. Yeah. So we're talking about a toxic relationship. So a toxic relationship is one that has unhealthy dynamics and causes you distress or harm because you're unsupported, manipulated, or disrespected. While we all have moments and seasons of selfishness, a truly toxic person will take and take and take and give you nothing in return. Um, when I was looking at this, it is so massive. This subject, you know, there's
I
so
know.
much information on this that I was like, I was overwhelmed. Um, and I will give you different signs of toxicity. That's the word. That's the
There you
word that I
go.
practice all day.
There you go.
You know, so I just want to just kick off with a first one, and I'm going to tell afterwards, Debbie, and you
Yeah, go ahead.
continue.
I'll tag off you.
So there's 12 according to this website, and I didn't put the website. I got it on my other phone, but I ain't going into it. 12 signs you're in a toxic relationship. So how do we distinguish between the normal challenges or of any relationship and a truly toxic one? Here's a few common signs of toxic relationship to watch out for. One, you don't feel safe. And I don't mean physically, although this applies too. I'm talking about a sense of emotional safety. Can you openly share your thoughts and feelings with this person? Does your voice matter? Or do you feel like you're always editing yourself, afraid of what they do or say if you were radically honest? And I think that's important. You
Hmm.
know, you should be able to express yourself freely. And if you're not able to express yourself freely, then you could be in a toxic relationship. If you've got to always edit, water down what you've got to say because this person's going to kick off or they're going to be offended,
Mm.
there's a possibility you're in a toxic relationship. And I have been in a few where, you know what, when you say, well, I don't want to hear no noise, So
Mm.
you have a tendency to change what you're saying for the benefit of no noise, or you don't respond how you really want to respond.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in a rude way. That some people just take offense because they're toxic.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line. Yeah, you go ahead.
So I think that there are lots of different things, and you've like just touched on that. And I was looking at, there's a website called Calm, and it's got a number of different things that are on there. So, you know, I'm gonna share something that I read. Okay, so communication, yeah. Communication breakdown often turns into insult, accusations, or complete silence, leaving issues unresolved and feeling unheard. Now, this is something that I learned even with like counseling and so forth. So, when somebody refuses to communicate with you and they go off into like a sulking, yeah, they do that to get their own way. That's toxic in a relationship. I didn't even think that that was toxic, because you can be in a relationship and you can mimic that behavior not knowing that it is toxic. So instead of having that conversation with someone, you shut down and you only
Mm,
want to have the conversation if it's going to go your way. That's toxic behavior. I think that when we talk about the toxicity in a relationship, we think it might seem like, that person like being abusive. Do you get what I mean? But when you're in a
mm,
conversation with someone, and because that person isn't be able to get their point over, or they feel as though they're being unheard, or you're not agreeing with them, and then they just shut down and refuse to have a conversation with you, that's toxic behavior. And I've done it. I've been on the receiving end of it. And I think it's just like with abuse. Sometimes people don't know that abuse is abuse because they've experienced it for so long, and it hasn't, and they haven't realized. It's only when like in my field of work, there are certain things like with counseling, with supporting families and so forth, and domestic violence, you start to realize that these kind of behaviors are quite toxic, and it needs to change. And if you're not the person that is going to change it, you're going to need to get some support and get some help, because it isn't nice when you're trying to have the conversation with someone and they refuse to have a conversation with you, totally shut down, totally go into soaking mode, and until it's okay for them to break out of it. And oftentimes they come out of the soaking when they get their own way, because their partner's not going to want them to soak. So I would put that one in there. The lack of communication and going into soaking and shutting
mm,
down is toxic behavior.
definitely. And I think it 12. I was going to say, to add on to what you're saying and what I said before, a healthy relationship gives you space. Yeah, gives space for people to be imperfect. And I'm just going to pause there for a second.
Yeah.
When I was looking at this, I think somewhat that I was toxic along the way. Maturity kicks in and you don't do these things anymore, or experience kicks in, and you're listening to what your partner's saying to you. I not that I was looking for perfection, but because I do something this way, I can't expect that the person will do it exactly the same way as me. I had to give space for them to be themselves, and imperfect, because none of us are perfect. So when I read this as well, it made me look back, and I was looking for. I remember someone saying to me, "You're looking for the perfect woman," and
Yeah.
it wasn't that. It was, you just think that certain things should go a particular way, but if it doesn't, it's okay. Yeah, from the perspective of someone, or you want going to what you're saying, you want your own way. Not everybody has to do it your way. Together, you find a new way, if that be the case, but with the communication. So, as it says again, a healthy relationship gives space for people to be imperfect and accountable at the same time. You can tell each other the good stuff and the shameful stuff, and openly talk about who has hurt you. You can be fully seen and still be fully loved with all that imperfection. A man might marry a woman, or a woman might marry a man who has slept around. Yeah. Now you're going to get judgmental on them when they've spoken to you, or in an argument you throw this out about them, because you didn't like something what they said. You didn't like that they didn't clean up. You didn't like that this or that. No, they should have that open space. But if you're in a toxic relationship, you won't have that space to be yourself. I remember someone said to me they felt that they needed to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a sign of being in a toxic relationship.
that
Not
was
not able to be yourself.
yeah, that was me, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
wanting this and I'm wanting that, And I never ever thought that I was toxic. You know, I was reading something today and it said, you know, you can measure yourself in with this. Um, and I personally speaking, I think when you, like us doing these shows, when you can see yourself in the topics that we have chosen along the way, it's really good. You know, for me, I find it really good because then I think, uh, and it
Makes you
gives
check
me
yourself.
space to change. Yeah, it gives me space to now change because I'm not going to come on here and tell you that I'm Mr. Perfect and
Hmm.
everything's smooth sailing, and you know, and my wife, or as you know, I like to say her name, Catherine. You know, is all perfect as well. But we make our relationship. You
Yeah.
know, and we have our highs and we have our mids and we have our lows, but together we still work together. And for me and for Catherine, it's about growth. You know, this show has helped me in a lot to grow. That's why when I say to you guys out there, this isn't just mine and Debbie's show, it's yours as
Yeah.
well. The
We're all on the journey
participation,
together.
yeah, we are. We are. And if this touches the right notes, then you can look in yourself and reflect and try to examine yourself, and that you then apply the changes that you need to make in your life as well. Some people might say, I don't need to make any changes, I'm just good how I am. And you're single. Yeah, you want someone in your life, but you're always single. You're getting single you're being single every single time. Someone's leaving you. The relationship breaks down all the time. Well, you need to check yourself. You know, we all have to check ourselves. You know, or you're constantly arguing. Yeah, and you're arguing about big things, little things. It's a good sign. Yeah, the moment that you have to argue, it's a good sign to take a step back and reflect on yourself,
Hmm.
whether it's call and response or you are the one that's throwing out the argument. You know, and when I say call and response, they say, so you say. They said that, you say this. You get nowhere. You know, that's a toxic relationship. It's getting nowhere except that you're unhappy. Yeah, you can't be yourself. Anyway,
Yeah.
I ain't
So
even touched two yet.
no, but it's good to say again that if you're in a relationship and you feel like you're treading on eggshells, you're not able to express yourself, you're not able to be yourself around that person, it's very much a sign of a toxic relationship. And I think that sometimes people just say, oh, he's like that or she's like that. They make excuse for people sometimes to just say, oh, he or she's a little bit funny. um it's better that I don't bother to come out because they like me to stay in. Yeah, you're dealing with somebody who is being quite toxic towards you. I'm going to share this one. Where is it gone? Oh, hold on. Oh, okay. So lack of support. Instead of feeling uplifted and encouraged, interactions often leave you feeling belittled and inadequate or sabotaged. Um, a lack of support is a big one within a relationship. I think that when you're not being supported, oftentimes people will just turn around and say, maybe that person just, because that's not their thing, you know, they, they're not really supporting me in that area. But remember, you're in a partnership. You're in a partnership. If you're part of a team in work and people are talking against you, working against you, you will think that that is quite toxic. It's not a good environment that you actually want to stay in. Same thing
Mhm.
with a relationship. If somebody is not willing to support you in any way, shape, or form, and you're feeling as though you're not being encouraged, you're not being uplifted, they're not interacting with you, they're putting you down, they're making you feel inadequate because of their comments, because of, like, let me give you an example. You've just got a new job, for instance, and there's no encouragement there. You're coming to them and you're speaking to them about your new job and so forth, and all they are focusing on is the negative things. You know, oh, you're in a new job, it's taking up so much of your time, la da 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 da. That is quite toxic within your relationship. And remember, you have to pay attention to how you are feeling, not being oversensitive, but be true to yourself. Allow how you feel. Don't, let me put it this way, do not disregard how you feel, because oftentimes, because you're in a relationship and you love someone, you disregard how you're actually feeling and making excuses for that person. So don't disregard how you feel, acknowledge how you feel, and have those conversations. The worst thing for you to do is express that to that person and they tell you that it's in your imagination. You're just think that's how you think, you know, that's not true. Instead of identifying that this is how it is for you. I remember sharing this with yourself, Paul, some time ago, when I was in my first marriage, and I said that um I my feelings was not acknowledged. So even when I did express how I felt, my feelings wasn't acknowledged. And then there was a period of time when I remember not understanding or not believing how he felt. So there was a time when I said, you know what, actually, this is true and real for him in real time. I don't have to agree with it. I don't even have to believe it. But that was his truth and this was my truth. And I think that when you identify, this is what is true for me in this relationship, and this is what is making me feel uncomfortable, this is what is making me feel belittled, this is what is affecting me in this, that your spouse, your significant other should be able to say, okay, that was not my intention. Even though that's how you're feeling, that was not what I was meant to do or was meant to say to make you feel that particular way. When you have somebody who's going to talk back to you about that situation, they may not know that they're being toxic, but when they can take accountability for what they're doing, then it gives you the ability to work through your challenges. So I kind of ran ahead of myself a little bit in terms of like how to overcome certain
No,
things, but yeah.
Which is what you're saying is very true. It's funny, even though I've read some of my notes, it's when I was just reading this now, it's as if I wrote this bit. This is two. Yeah.
Oh,
It
okay.
said you had bad or you have bad or non-existent communication. Not that bit. Yeah. Good communication is the heartbeat of every relationship, and it's easy to go off the rails without even meaning to. So if you do, sometimes it's life. You know, you're in a situation, but I always say you must catch yourself. You know, you've gone off. You know, try and drag yourself back. I know situations can be quite overwhelming. You know, but you'll never get anywhere constantly beating at one another. Yeah. If we're allowed in this world to get a club, and each time there's an argument, you don't argue, you club the person. When are you gonna dead? Yeah. When are you gonna die? Whether from the first hit or the 50th hit, when are you gonna die? So you're killing your relationship slowly. You're clubbing at your relationship. You know, I don't know why I said that. That's for someone out there. You're clubbing your relationship and it's dying. You know, take a step back and find another way of communicating. Yes, it's hard, but you can, because you want it to work. If he or she don't want it to work, don't string someone along. Yeah, don't string them along. If you've got another person out there and they don't know, don't string them along. Don't string the one at home along. Don't do it. Yeah. Anyway, I was gonna go somewhere else there, so I won't. I just felt I wanted to say that for someone listening, either on the playback or out there right now. Life is hard enough. We can't play around. You know, it's hard enough. Don't play with love. Don't play with people's feelings. You know, I've been there on both sides of playing with someone's feelings. So that just a footnote there. This is what it says
Let
here.
me ask you a question. Have you ever identified that you had toxic behavior, but not know that you had toxic behavior?
Yeah, yeah. Today, when I was doing my study of all of this, I thought, wow, I didn't know that's what they call toxicity. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, so some of us out there, we don't know that we are toxic, and we're just doing it because we think it's normal behavior. And some is normal behavior,
Mm-hmm.
but some things are toxic. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if your significant other can't be themselves because of you, then you are displaying a toxic behavior. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they can't be open and honest with you. For those for those that don't talk and honest and openly, you've got for me, from my perspective, you've got a communication problem. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not necessarily toxic. It only becomes toxic that you don't communicate anything, open up to the person that you're with, when you then criticize them that they do. Yeah, they talk and they're expressing, and then now you're criticizing their openness, that you're killing that person from being open and honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're going to hold back. Toxic behavior. So
Mm-hmm.
you might not be a person that communicates and give all your feelings and everything else like that. I believe you should, if this is the person that you love. I believe that you should, if you're in a relationship and you're looking for long term, you're married, you should be. You know, you might not have been, but that's what you're striving towards. And that's, I tell you something, the key right there for someone who doesn't communicate or open up a lot, it's to say, I do want to open up, but I find it very hard to do that because, and whatever reasons that you are, right there, you're displaying excellent behavior, excellent communication skills, because now that person doesn't have to um, uh, prod and poke you to express yourself. They now understand why you don't, you know. And once you take that first step of doing that, it gives you another step later on to say, boy, you know, they took that well, you know. And you never know what that person's going to say to you. They might find it hard to communicate, or that's the only way that they, like me, I like to talk, yeah, but it's expressing my feelings because I don't want it circling in my head. I don't want anything of my past controlling my behavior. So the only way that I know now how to get out is to talk, you know, to communicate, to pray, to talk, and it's still talking, you know, talking to God as a believer. So I find it easier just taking those steps. You know, someone, I've been with people who don't talk. I just think you're just boring, man. Yeah, don't even. Oh, you talk, but me talking off. You talk to me, and but they may not have the communication skills like that, but
Absolutely.
they can. You can start by saying you don't. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, you
You,
can start by saying you don't, but you shouldn't remain there. But at the same
exactly.
time, what I've like for instance, I do like your gospel night. So, there were people that come there and they're just like, no, I'm shy, I don't want to do the karaoke. But after talking with them and encouraging them and saying to them, I'll come up with you. I'm not even a singer. I can't even really sing, but I'll come up with you. I will sing with you. They come. So it's not just the responsibility of the person that doesn't talk, that find it difficult to communicate. It also is the responsibility of the communicator, the one that can
Absolutely.
communicate more effectively,
Absolutely.
to be able to even ask the right questions, so that
Yeah.
like even in counseling, you don't ask closed questions, you ask open
Open
questions,
questions. That's
so
right.
that people can express themselves, and you ask the right questions, so again they can express themselves, so that it's not just a yes and no answer by asking them a closed question. And I think that, you know, it's important that you you both adopt a position of, I'm here for you and you're here for me. um and the thing with
Absolutely.
toxic behavior is that it's like what the Bible says, it begats. So if one person is being toxic towards the other, and that person's feeling belittled, and that person's feeling insignificant, sooner or later they are going to start demonstrating toxic behavior back to that individual in one way, shape, or form. And this is what happened with
Mm,
me. I realized that I was demonstrating toxic behavior, and then pride comes in, where it says, well, it's because of this, I do this because of this. Pride only serves the purpose of trying to protect. Do you get what I mean? But it doesn't mean
mhm.
that it's good. It shows up like if it's protecting you, but at the same time, it is being very proud for, it's being very arrogant, it's being, you know, the thing that you don't want to be. So I think it's important to
Mm.
look at how you are responding to somebody who's probably got toxic behavior, because chances are is that you might be being toxic yourself. Go on, I can see you going to ask a question.
No, I was going to ask you a question. Knowing that you got married again, do you think that in your marriage that some of that toxicity ran over it, and when did you um and if it did, when did you realize that I still had some of that, or if you, or didn't you?
I think that yes, I'll be honest, and I think that yeah, there was some toxic tendencies. I think that because of, I think what you identify is the person's response. So for me, if when I notice how Gary will be responding to me, then I realize it's how I've projected this. That's why I've got that response. Do you get what I mean? So you're able to
Mm,
identify, because of this toxic tendency, this is the response that you're going to get. And if this is where pride comes in, where you then swap that out for pride, instead of identifying this is toxic behavior and this is why I got this
yeah,
response. Do you get what I'm saying? You
yeah,
swap it out.
yeah,
You swap, pride comes in, and you try to protect, because you realize, oh, I demonstrated this, instead of being introspective and thinking, why did that person respond like that? They responded like that because you may be demonstrating toxic behavior, and you need to address that, rather than expecting that person to respond differently. So I think that my answer to that is yes. And I think that there were, I think in more in the early stages. And I think that, you know, just like throughout at different times over different things. But I
mm,
think that I'm not typically a shouter. I'm not somebody who screams and shouts and so forth. But I can. Do you get what I mean? Just like in anybody. And
mm,
when I
mm, mm.
find myself doing that, I wonder what's triggered that, because I find the screaming and the shouting and the belittling and things like that to be quite toxic. And if those things are happening, I'm
Mm.
like, well, where is this coming from? And like I said, if one person's demonstrating that behavior, sooner or later the other person's going to demonstrate that behavior, because pride is definitely going to come in, and pride is going to come in to try
Mm.
and defend. So I think that I was going to say I was going to make this point, the impact of staying in a toxic relationship um, can be, it says that it can be profound on your mental health, emotional, and sometimes physical health. It can lead to an increase of anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. And I really wanted to stop there, because when it starts to impact on your well-being, your mental health, where you're feeling anxious, so how can that show up? Well, you know, my husband or my wife is coming home from work. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how they're going to come in,
Yes.
what their attitude is going to be like, or anything like that. Eggshells again. So they come in, and if they've had a bad day at work, you're going to pay the consequences for that. Do you get what I mean? And
Mm.
what people don't realize is that you're the closest person to that person. I shared it with someone recently, and I said that if something's going on with someone, they're gonna vomit on you because you're the closest person to them. So the vomit will all go all over you.
Yeah.
So if it was a
Yeah.
bad day at work, if there was a debt that needed to be paid and you don't have the money to pay for it, that's going to show up in a certain way. Now, the reason why I think about the mental health aspect of it is because people don't speak about that enough. And I think that it's important to realize that depression can come in, anxiety can come in, insomnia, all of these things. So let me go on and read. It says a constant stress and negativity can lead to symptoms like insomnia, changes in appetite, or chronic health issues. Toxic relationships can cause isolation, making it harder to reach out to people when you need it the most. Now, like I said, it can impact your mental health, but it also can impact your physical health. So I strongly believe that there are some people, that are walking around with illnesses, and it's due to toxic relationships. And that's why I started off at the top of the
Yeah.
program by saying that toxic relationships is not just with your spouse, with your partner. It can be with your children, it can be with your family members, but it can impact your mental and your physical health. And there are people who are sick, got ailments in their body, and I believe that that's because of toxicity in there. If you eat something and it poisons you, there is going to be something that happens in your body, vomit, diarrhea, or something like that. Can you imagine keeping toxicity from relationships in your body and that not being able to come out? And sometimes what that means, and I'm saying it about friends and family and even relationships that you're in, you're not married. When you're married, you're going to have to try and work this through. But that, if you do not deal with it, those are the things that can cause you to die, have an early death. It's toxicity
Yep.
that is in your body, and you need to cut that off. You need to get that out of you. And I don't think that people take it seriously enough. Like, I don't deal with the toxicity anymore. I was saying it to you recently, Paul. If I even get a whiff of you being toxic around me, I am cutting you off. And the cutting off doesn't mean I will never speak to you again. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that at this moment in time, I will not have a conversation with you. I will not, because
Mm.
you're trying to vomit on me your issues, your problems, whatever it is. And I'm not going to be that person that you vomit on me. And so I remove myself. So if you want to spew vomit, you spew vomit. It's just not going to go all over me. And so
Mhm.
I really want the listeners to think about how physically and mentally they are feeling. I want you to think about that. And then I want you to think about, I think that when we're having this conversation, certain people will just spring to mind, because that when I'm around this person, this is how they make me feel. They make me like I'm on eggshells. And like I said, we're talking about relationships, husbands, wives, partners, but I also want you to think about how that impacts you in other relationships. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, I think that's deep. I got a feeling that this will be a part two because of how much it does cover, and I've got quite a bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we will be going to a part two. So this is the part on number two that I didn't finish. Um, it says here, my wife and I have gone through seasons of toxicity. And this is what I'm saying. I was like, oh, I'm, you remember seeing something, but you don't actually identify it with yourself, because obviously I'm just looking at getting information. and translating it like this. My wife and I have gone through seasons of toxicity because I was afraid to express my needs and desires. I would wish and assume, and when my expectations didn't become reality, I would judge her. I actually did this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, I've apologized for all of this, so hey, don't judge me. um, I could I would judge her, experience massive disappointment, and become resentful. I wasn't resentful though. Nah, I wasn't that. Or maybe I was a little bit. It wasn't until I opened up that we could actually connect. Um, on here, there's a book that was referenced. Want to build a non-anxious life? Learn how in Dr. John Deloney's new book. I guess it was called Want to Build a Non-Anxious Life. Yeah. Anyway, look up Dr. John Deloney. I'll put it in there as well. And Trevor, it's okay. You know, we're not always on time. Things happen, even with us as well with the show.
Can always watch the replays
And
as
make no
well.
mistakes. Being honest doesn't. Yeah, you can always watch the playback. Yeah, for real. And make no mistakes. Being honest doesn't mean everything will magically be okay, and that's very true. Yeah, it isn't a magic wand, but it's magical in the respects of um, starting to see how you're both growing and glowing and coming together. You know, because you started that road of communication, honest communication. You know, I remember saying to Catherine one time when I was feeling insecure, I said, you know, I need to tell you something. You know, I'm feeling kind of insecure right now because of XYZ, and we talked about it. You know, she would say what she said, and I said, what, you know, and it is a good thing. I don't think that if that communication and prayer, having a relationship with God, that we would be where we are now. You know, one communicating with the Father and communicating with one another, and love, real love, real love. Done. Well, we've done a show on love. You don't just
Question:
walk away.
what would you do if her response was, "Well, sort yourself out"? Like,
I had
you,
someone who said to me, "Oh, is that the way you were?"
mm-hmm,
So see, the experience from there has taught me something. Now let me tell you, if Catherine had said that to me, I could still say something to that in
mm-hmm.
respects that if she said, "Well, sort yourself out," then
Yeah,
I'm growing. For me to be able to express to you something so deep, yeah, whether you're critical or not, it helps me because it's therapeutic for me to be able to be open. If you can't take the honesty and the openness and you think that will sort yourself out, you also need, just your response alone, you need to look in the mirror as well, because
absolutely.
you need to sort yourself out in it, and it's not throwing stones back, but that person will need to sort themselves out, because your response should not be that go, is that why you're the way you were? Yeah, or
Mm-hmm.
you are. Well, maybe that is, but I
Maybe
didn't
that
have that
is.
in me.
Mm,
Maybe I didn't have that kind of talk in me, but what it done to me was close me down. I never wanted to
absolutely,
tell you anything ever again,
absolutely.
because your response wasn't, I guess there was an expectation,
Yeah.
and we done a show on that as well. I
Mm-hmm.
then don't expect someone to be able to respond how I would. That's
Mm-hmm.
the growth. I have the hope that they'd respond
Yeah.
in a different manner. But if you
Absolutely.
didn't, I can't be offended and wouldn't be offended because I
You
am.
probably wouldn't
I'm
be
trying.
offended now. You probably wouldn't be
Yeah.
offended now because you'll
No,
be
I
able to
wouldn't.
identify that that person
It's,
needs to grow in that area. But
yeah.
initially, because you was in the space that you was in, you wasn't able to identify that that person needed growth in that
I
area. You just
I
knew.
knew they needed growth in different areas. I knew that they were um coming from a background of disappointment, insecurity. Oh, insecurity was running through her veins, you know.
Hmm.
But if I said that to her, it would kick off.
Hmm.
But it was running through your veins by, if a lot of different things. Anyway, go on.
I think that a lot of people, if you turn around, it depends on how you have that conversation with someone about insecurity, because I can have that conversation with somebody who I'm coaching or I'm doing counseling, and I say that, I can see that there's some insecurities there because of this, and you might need to work on this. It's not just that you are insecure, it's how that person's telling you that you're insecure. Oh, you're so insecure, go and get help, man. What's your problem? Do you get what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
what makes
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
respond in the way that they do. And they
Because
respond because they're
mm,
trying to defend themselves, even though they know that, yes, I am insecure in what Trevor
let me
said.
just say that a bit. It's almost that you're ashamed at the fact
Yeah,
that they've spoken it out so
yeah.
loudly, and now you see yourself, and it's like defend. Go on.
Yeah, but that's pride. It's pride that makes
Yeah,
you defend like that. So
absolutely.
Trevor said honest communications needs understanding from the other person, or else they might just eat you up. And that's exactly what we're talking about that other person not understanding. They can make you feel bad about your own trouble. Like, so we all got weaknesses, yeah? We all
Hmm.
got weaknesses. And the fear is, if I share this weakness with this person, are they going to embrace that and help me and work through that? And what you want is somebody who is going to understand that this is one of my weaknesses. I want you to help me or understand, and let us work through it together. When you, excuse me, when you find that that person isn't on board with you, then you're going to look at your relationship and think, right, how am I going to navigate through this? And it speaks of there being that being toxic in the relationship. And then let me explain it like this. Yeah. So I think that the there are people that are not emotionally mature. Doesn't mean that they're toxic though. Yeah, doesn't mean that they're toxic. What makes it toxic is when you go to them and you explain to them, like what you said about having an insecurity, or having a fear, or having a weakness, whatever it might be, and how they respond to that. And then you express again to them, this is my challenge, this is my problem. And they now use that. One, they can weaponize it. They now do not help and do not support you in it. They're not trying to grow. There's no growth. They're not trying to grow. They're basically remaining the same, and they're either weaponizing it, or they're not identifying that this is something that they need to support you with. And it's a continued thing. So I don't think initially you can say, oh, straight off from the word get-go, this is toxic behavior. I think it becomes toxic behavior over a period of time. Do you get what I mean, Paul?
Yeah, it's funny because as you're saying that, I was reading this, and it said things are probably going to be uncomfortable or painful, especially if you being honest. This is the part about honesty. Um, that's normal, but
Hmm.
burying your hurts and needs deep inside, you only lead. They wrote that wrong. Deep inside, it only leads to resentment.
Hmm.
Often, an emotional charged conversation activates fight. I was going to say this earlier on: fight
Right.
or flight or freeze
Mm.
response. You become explosive, tackling the threat head on, or you withdraw into a cold silence. other examples of dysfunctional communication includes gaslighting. This is part of being toxic. Gaslighting, manipulating words, being dishonest, and attacking judgment to their words without asking for clarification. So what we were saying just now, you're not asking, what do you mean by that? I know if they've not expressed, I feel a bit insecure and they've just left it there. Instead of say, well, yeah, you're always insecure. Yeah. And yeah, whatever you're saying on negatively, as opposed to clarifying, what do you mean by that? And even leading questions, like you were saying, is it something that I do that makes you feel insecure? Let them tell you. I think a lot of people, I mean, I was very insecure in myself, but never honest enough to say I was insecure and distrusting. I'm still work in progress with the trusting, because we all want to protect our heart. I'm better than I used to be, because I find that file that you've hid 25 years ago, yeah, because of the insecurity and the distrust, to see, I knew it. Well, what do I know? That's their past. That's how I was toxic, because I'm looking for something to
bring over.
To discredit you when it's nothing to do with me. If you slept with 50,000 men, that's none of my business. I weren't there. Yeah, as long as you get a check before we get together, But that's all, But you see, I mean, your past has it has bearing on our future in some respects, depending if you've been abused, etc., etc. It has bearing on our future, but that's for you to be able to communicate that with me, and for me to understand that there's going to be some rocks that I'm going to have to climb up because of where you're coming from. But you don't stay there either. When you find that he or she is the type of, because men get abused too, sexual abuse and all kinds of abuse as well. So once you know that there's rocks that you're going to have to climb, you have to be, or should be, understanding that this person may this rock that you tread on with them, it may tremble a bit, it may rock a bit, but you're going to say, right, I'm going to take another step though. And because this person is being open and honest with you about that. I find it hard like this. I find it difficult making love because it reminds me of my past, instead of, well, what have I got to do? That's not to do with me. Why not turn it around and say, well, what can I do to support you? What can I do that I can change that it's not like that? They may say nothing at all, but you know what? I'm not going to stop because of what happened to me. I'm just letting you know that sometimes I may feel I'm like this, and just bear with me because I'm work in progress. Wow, right there. Yeah. Yep.
It's the explanation. It's the explanation. It's the if you're not being intimate, let us just use that as an example. The man or the woman's going to be thinking, well, what's wrong? Have I done something? Have I said something? But if you're expressing, you might not even fully know what the problem is, but sometimes when we make love, this is how this makes me feel, and I don't know why. And he might ask you, or she might ask you, what can I do? It might be just, could you just hug me? Could you just hold me? Do you get what I mean? And that person, if they are willing to work with you, because I was talking to someone today and I'm like, if this person is a lifetime partner, what you're going through right now, they should be able to understand and identify that this is a small drop in the ocean. Like, this isn't forever. Do you get what I mean? Nothing is forever. So if there's challenges like this now and you're willing to work through it, guess what? You're going to come through. But when you throw in the towel, when you're just like, do you know what, this is what is happening right now, and I'm not going to do this, you're not even, it's like there's no foresight, there's no forward thinking that this is what it is right now. Just like if you plant a seed, that seed is going to grow. Yeah, it's not going to stay unless it's not getting the right nutrients. It's going to grow. So
Mm.
it's understanding that in that moment you might want to be intimate, or you might, want to do whatever you want to do, but right now might not be a good time. You might just need to hug your partner. You might just need to tell them that you love them, and reassure them that you're there for them. And I think that, when it comes to dealing with toxicity, it's really identifying first and foremost that it's there. Do you know what I mean? Don't pretend that it's not there. Go with what you're actually thinking and feeling in your gut. It's not nice to be treading on eggshells. It's not nice to, not have that support, and someone shuts down on you or tell you that, oh, you've got issues or you've got problems, you need to get help, and so forth. It's not nice. And that is demonstrating toxic behavior. But look for ways on how you can actually come through that. And I think that maybe we might need to probably share that next week in terms of how to overcome and work through toxic behaviors, because I think that, we've
Yeah,
looked at
because I've got that
yeah,
as well.
we've
There's
looked at
so much
toxic
about
behaviors. There is
toxic. Yeah.
like like one of the other ones which I think is necessary, and I think we kind of touched on it, is the unmet needs.
Yeah.
Like touching on the sexual side of things. It says, while no relationship can fulfill every need, and that's important to know, your partner is not going to be able to be everything to you. Consistent unmet emotional, physical, or psychological needs, like a lack of emotional support, intimacy, or mutual respect, are signs of toxicity. Now, if you listen to everything that we're saying, it's consistent. It's consistent that makes it toxic. Just because somebody has said something once or twice does not make it toxic. It is the consistently blaming that person, not meeting their needs, constantly disrespecting them. It's the constantness, because that toxicity, it takes a while to build up. And so one or two incidences doesn't make it toxic. It's over a period of time of that not being addressed that builds up, and then you're now in a toxic relationship. So
I just want
I
to go to the chat.
go on.
Trevor says, or you're expressing yourself, or they just don't want to hear what you have to say, what you're going through in your life. And I think if you have someone who doesn't want to hear what's going on in your life, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing,
It's not.
because then
Why are you
when
here?
they're going through, and it generally works like this, they want you to listen to what they're going through. They've had a bad day at work. They've had their pay cut. This man on the street was looking at them and then he spat. And they want to tell you their story, but they're not interested in your story. So, it's again that borderlines with we done the show. There's a word that I want. We done the show on it as well. Anyway, it will come back to me and I'll say it. He also says, what if you're feeling horny, so horny, at that time? Now, I'm gonna really answer this. So that person turns around and you're feeling it, you're hungry. Are you gonna just think about yourself while they're in an emotional state? Yeah. And then let's say she says, "Oh, don't worry about it then," and she then lets you have sex because you're horny. She will remember. Yeah. She will remember that because you didn't take time out to acknowledge her feelings or his feelings, because you put your needs first. Yeah. If you're going to put your needs first, then again, it's not, it doesn't work like that. Someone expressing themselves and telling you, you know, I want to just hug, you know, or what if a man is impotent and can't get it up? And she says, man, you're the first man that has ever happened to. Yeah, that has happened with me. Yeah, what's wrong with you? Yeah, I'm horny and look at you, you can't even do it. How would you feel that way around? Yeah. But if you said to her, I don't know what's wrong. Listen, as men, yeah, women will go through that with perimenopause, or their hormones are all over the place, that they just don't want to have sex. They want to hug. Yeah, you can kiss me, you know, you can do something different, but I don't want to have sex. But they don't say. Some women don't say. There's an excuse for it. As it was out there, I've got a headache. Yeah. Or, you know, I was spotting and I got some blood showing. Lies. Yeah. That's why you must know a woman's cycle. Yeah. Yeah, you got to know it. And when she's saying it, even if you don't know the cycle, you know her, you think lie. You lie. Go on. Keep it. No, not really. No, there's some truth in there, but no, keep it. You know, if you can't discipline yourself as a man to not have sex, and that you have
And
to,
not make her feel bad for
yeah,
not doing that.
then the problem lies with you then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because okay, if she's giving you long time not getting nothing, it's going to create a problem, and she has to look at that and say, you know what, and I think when I'm saying that, she should come to you if he is trying, or he should come to you if you are trying as a woman and there is a lack of sex happening, because that communication will make you get clarity, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That he won't feel rejected, she won't feel rejected. There's understanding, there's clarity. But if you leave it, you
Yeah,
come
but
to your own conclusions along the way.
I think it gets left because, like, if nothing is said, the woman might be thinking, don't say nothing, don't bring up the subject. And the man might be thinking exactly the same, let me not bring up the subject, you know, because it's going to cause friction or, you know, contention. So sometimes it gets left, and then it's an explosive moment because now he's hungry or she's hungry and nothing is actually happening. And that is quite toxic. It's breeding toxicity in the
Yeah.
relationship, because it's been like I said, toxicity is something that's happening over a period of time, you know, not just the one and two times. But I wanted to say that Trevor said, it's all the reason you have a level of maturity towards each other. And I think that was in response to
Absolutely.
you saying,
Yeah.
Paul, that, you know, you should really understand what your wife or your husband is actually going through. So if there is impotency there, what are you going to say? You're not there to emasculize him. You know, you're there to understand what the challenges are that he is experiencing and vice versa, and being understanding and knowing what it is that you can do. So there might be a period of time where you're not going to be intimate, sexually intimate, you know, have penetrative sex, but you might be able to still hug, and you might be able to still kiss each other and hold hands and let that person know that you're still
There's so much more.
finding
Yeah.
them attractive, and you know, you still want them, and not to make them feel like, you know what, because we're not having sex, then there is nothing here. Do you get what I mean? But like I said, I think it's important just from the get-go that you have those conversations, because when you're not having that conversation, it's giving ground to breed toxicity in your relationship.
Do you know, you said something there and it reminded me just of to use another analogy. If you lent money out to somebody, yeah, a large amount of money, let's say, they've lent it to you, and they never come and tell you, they've told you when they're going to give it back to you, and you don't hear from them, you're ringing them, meaning that you're trying to get a hold of them to communicate, and then they don't respond to you. There was a point of what you just said, and I was going there, and my brain's going away 100 miles an hour. But it's the same thing in the relationship, that you want answers. You're going to want an answer to the why you haven't given me the money. Yeah. And if you're doing all the running to find out why you're not giving me give me back my money, it's the wrong way round. You're supposed to let them know, look, I know I was supposed to give it back to you on that day, but I haven't. And if you set another time and it doesn't, you've got to revisit it again to let them know, look, I haven't forgotten your money. I haven't forgotten. That's the point I was making. Yeah, I haven't forgotten to I owe you. Yeah. So if you are communicating with your partner, you know, and you have said either way, you know what, we haven't had sex for a while, and you know we will, but a certain period of past, you should say,
revisit.
You constantly revisit that, but revisiting it and in doing it is two different things. So it's then finding that,
revisiting
and not
it,
just constantly revisiting.
Yeah, but revisiting it will make that person know that you are conscious of the lack of
time,
or the lack of sex, and not just that, revisiting it with the intentions to put things in place. Do you get what I mean? So you can start to say, like, if there is no, because this is how women feel. If there's no sex that is going on, from the woman's part, it one, we know that it breeds insecurity anyway. It makes the woman think, is he out there getting it somewhere else? It works both ways, because the man will be thinking the same thing. But, and this is why it's important to revisit it, because if you revisit it, then you're going to be able to have those conversations about your insecurities and your fears and all the rest of it. But also, I'm a firm believer that if there is a lack of sex within the relationship, you know, don't let the intimacy drop off. Do not make that drop off, because then there is nothing at all. And when there is nothing, it breeds other things. It brings that insecurity. It breeds that fear. You know, it brings anxiety. It breeds all of those kind of things. So it's important to revisit it and to set things in place, you know. So set things like date night in place. Do things that are going to make you want to, you know, if it's a case where, you know, there's been sexual traumas from childhood or something like that, and you need to work through that, go and get the support, go and get the help. Don't keep on making excuses for, you know, what the problem is. Go and get the help and the support. If this is what one of the things that, you know, I share with people who do the counseling. If you've got a physical ailment, you go to get that diagnosed and treated. Yeah. Why don't you do that with mental things? Why do you don't pay so much attention to the psychological and your mental health? Because you can't see it, but you can see it because it's impacting on your relationship, you know. But there's not as much attention paid to that because it's not a physical ailment. If you're sick, if you've got breathing problems, if you've got, like, you know, a ailment, a cough, a cold, you're gonna like sort that out. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to leave it for no long period of time. So be like that with the mental health side of things. And women, you know, I just think that when the intimacy isn't there, it just breeds a whole load of other things. But again, like I said, it's the longevity of something that makes it toxic, and it makes it the two parties might feel as though it's acceptable to have long periods of time without being intimate or having sex, but it isn't. It does breed toxicity in the relationship. So I
Let
think
me read, let me just read this.
mhm.
This is my last one, last bit, because I'm only on 4 and there's 12. So
Mm,
you've about toxicity. Yeah, you feel like you've lost yourself. Toxic people tend to absorb, manipulate, and mold people to fit their own agendas, their plans, and interests. Dominate the relationship and dominate the relationship. You often find yourself doing things you don't want to do just to please them, violating your core values. Some people do.
yeah,
Um, Violating your core values, going places that make you uncomfortable, spending time with people who set off your anxiety alarms. Never forget, you hold the power. It's up to you, not your partner, to recognize these patterns and set healthy boundaries. It's your job to say no, assert yourself, and live in alignment with your values. But toxic people will often become resentful, frustrated, or angry when you set boundaries or um, live your values.
absolutely.
A quick note: this is often hard to see on your own. Give your friends or trusted loved ones permission to speak into your life when they see you disappearing into someone else's life. Those closest to us can often see things we can't. That's 4. And you know what? It's true. I mean,
Yes,
some people can't see it, and some people see it, but yet you you're always believing that it's going to change, and then you give it another month, and you give it another year, and another year, and you want the change, but you're not talking about it. You're
hmm,
waiting for it. Yeah, you got to talk about it. Yeah, and if there are no changes, you talk about it again, and that's where you're going to say, well, it can't continue this way because it makes me feel like this. You know, the other day, Sunday, I woke up Sunday morning and I just felt anxious. I just felt like this anxiety on me, and it was like, okay, let me ring, because I wasn't at home. Let me ring um, Catherine, and I rang her, and I told her. She asked me why. I said I don't know. I just feel like this. I just woke up this morning, and I feel like it's just odd, and feeling like this. And she said, um, "Have you prayed?" I said maybe that was the key. That I should have been praying about it. I didn't have to say anything. She went straight into prayer mode, and praying for me, um, for this to lift. By
hmm,
the time I'm driving from London to West Yorkshire, it lifted. You know, Trevor says because you miss her.
miss her.
Maybe it was that. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know it. I just felt anxious. I felt anxiety, and I was uncomfortable. It was like it's like I tell you what it was like. It was like smoking weed and getting paranoid. That
Hmm.
feeling, yeah, of
Now
smoking weed.
everybody smoke weed.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't. I wasn't smoking. Yeah, okay, just to put it out there, I don't smoke. Yeah, yeah. So that's the feeling that I had, but yet I didn't know why. But yet expressing it. See, I didn't feel
You didn't
that.
feel no way to be vulnerable,
No, I didn't. I didn't. I
and
didn't.
that's
I
good.
didn't. I didn't feel like I would be judged or was you smoking then? Or um, well, that's not my problem. Get out of your head or something negative.
Yeah,
It was something positive, and that's
yeah.
important. Um,
Hmm.
Trevor,
Hmm.
and that is right, Trevor. Trevor says she's your soulmate, and and your soul needed her. And to bounce off of that, that person, your wife or your husband, however you got together, this is what I've been saying this week. All things work together for good. In a plug, you have a negative and a positive. They have to work together. You cannot unplug the negative and expect the power to come through. And you can't unplug the positive and leave the negative and expect the power to come through. Maybe something in you needed to change, and that's why you're in that situation, or something that both of you need to change in, or something that is going to challenge you because it's been left for so long that you met this man, this woman, and you're together and you think you're clashing. You think it's just a, grinding iron, and you think to yourself, man, but maybe something in there is supposed to develop you and help you to grow and get a greater understanding, or to release something, however it is. But we jump out too quick. We get out too quick. Husbands, wives, you get out your marriage too quick, to learn what was I supposed to learn in this situation here. I'm not saying that if you're in an abusive relationship that it's physical abuse or mental abuse, because it's not good. We're not talking about that, but in there doesn't mean that I'm supposed to learn to be patient, with this person. What's causing them to be act this way? Yeah, you can be away from somebody, and still be there for them, and try to resolve the issue from afar. I can't be in the same place as you, but we can build this from outside, and that then we can come together again. But I can't be there because you're physically or mentally abusive, and I love myself enough to withdraw myself from this. Not I love her, I love him, and you stay in it because it's toxic. And so all you're doing is emptying yourself of you, and there'll be nothing left of you, and whatever it takes you to. So I'm not talking about those sort of negative. If I'm using those examples, it's getting out and getting help. It may you come back together, you may not get back together. I'm talking about that you're having arguments about other things. You don't agree that the couch, you went out and bought a couch that was blue, and I don't like no blue couch. Why didn't you put a green one in there? I like green. You didn't even discuss it with me. You went out and bought this, or you spent more money, or whatever it is, and you're clashing over these different traits. But in there is a learning thing.
Absolutely.
I'm saying it through experience. Something to learn in every negative situation and every positive situation. So I just want to encourage somebody out there that you might be going through something that you see as negative, but what have you learned about it? I've learned, run to the hills, and sometimes it might be that, but what have you learned from that relationship, that bad relationship? Because if you take all your bad relationship into a new relationship, then it's going to become toxic. You can't take what happened to you in the other relationship into this. You have to know, what have I learned about myself? Did I allow this and that, or should I have done that? And I say that because that's what I have done over and over again over the years. And that's my final word. We're going to do a part 2.
Yeah, because I really want to share. I think that it's good for us to share. We are looking at, are you in a toxic relationship? We're talking about toxic relationships, and are you in a toxic relationship? And I think that we haven't really touched this. We've just touched the surface in terms of looking at areas of toxicity within a relationship.
Yeah.
I think that what will be good is if we can come back next week and really give some more advice, because you just gave advice there, and we've been giving advice in dribs and drabs throughout the episode. But I think it would be good if we come back and share a little bit more about other areas of toxicity in a relationship, and then really go full on with
focus on
advice and helping people with those challenges. And I think that the overarching thing is to be is to be kind and to be sensitive and to be graceful to your significant other, and realizing that you've got weaknesses just like them, and understanding that toxicity happens over a period of time, and it's to kind of nip it in the bud as early as possible when you see either yourself or someone else demonstrating that kind of behavior. And I think that will lead to, I would say, a more fruitful relationship. But I just really wanted to touch on what you said, Paul, and I was sharing it with someone the other day, is, you know, did we do a episode on opposites attract, Paul?
Yeah, we did.
Didn't we? Because I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was talking about when I was working with the young kids in the school, and when you got the magnets and you put plus and plus together, it pushed it away, so it wouldn't connect. And when you put the minus and the plus, it stuck. And sometimes people look at the differences in the relationship and think this cannot and will not work because they're very different in character, and they might want to go to the moon and that other person wants to stay on planet Earth, and it's like, well, these two doesn't work. But it's like chalk and cheese, it's like opposite attracts, they work. So what you was talking about, the plus and the minus, you need the plus, if you're a minus, and the minus needs the plus, and it's coming to a common ground and realizing that you actually need each other, but it's working through the challenges that you have in order for it for that current, for that continuity to happen. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that we can definitely have some more conversations around toxic love and whether you're in a toxic relationship. And I hope that this was like food for thought for somebody, that they're looking at themselves, looking at their relationship and seeing how they can improve it. And I think that if you're the person that is gaining the knowledge, like I do encourage couples to sit down and watch this together, but if you're the spouse that is gaining the knowledge and equipping themselves with the tools, don't assume that the other person is doing the same. And I shared it with some ladies the other day that it's like you having all the scuba gear on, you taking your spouse and saying, come on, let's go and jump in the ocean, and that person doesn't have any of that equipment on, but you're expecting them to swim, you're expecting them to do what you're doing, but they will just drown, they will just die. Yeah. So if you're the person that is equipping yourself, don't assume that your spouse is as equipped as you, but try to help that person come up to that level so that both of you can jump in at the same time and swim together. So yeah, I'll leave that there. And
this was a website. That was a website that I went to.
Oh right. Oh, okay.
That you can get some information on there about toxic traits and statistics and different ways of overcoming as well, which will still cover next week. This one was
and I've put in the other one as well that I was reading from the blog, Toxic Relationships at calm.com.
That the one that this one's deeper, man, as well. They go on, and and I won't read all the information with them, but next week I'm going to go through the list of these ones as well. It's deep.
The thing is, Paul, there's so much information out there, and I know that you need to, eat the meat and throw away the bones with some of them and see how it can actually work for you. But there's so much information out there. There's, sometimes people are willfully ignorant because they don't try to seek help. And that's why it's important. People do complain a lot. I do get people coming to me and explaining and complaining about the relationship. And I'm saying, what is it that you're doing? How are you educating yourself? It's necessary. It's necessary. And something you said, about that, that on that Better Up thing, where it was like, you know, speak to family and friends about them seeing, you know, whether there's toxicity in the relationship. Again, that's good, but you also need to be wary of their advice concerning it. So they might be
Exactly.
able to identify that, yes, you're like this, and I can see that there's toxicity in the relationship, but be very conscious and cautious about the advice that you take from them, because the advice might be very biased. Well, it will normally be quite biased, and you can take the advice from your family and friends and end up in a worse situation than what you was before. So yeah, they might be able to identify that you're in a toxic relationship, but I would also go so far to say look outside of your friends and family to get some support and to get some advice, so that you don't find yourself doing the things that your friends and family thinks that is going to work, and it doesn't work, and it makes things worse in your relationship. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Trevor said, sometimes the worst people to ask is family and friends in some respects. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
so it's more taking on the advice. That's what I would say. It's more
Yeah.
about whether you're going to take on the advice. They can say, yeah, I can see that this is the problem, but what is the advice that they're going to give you? And that's
As
what
long
I
as
would
it's
say.
constructive and non-biased, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, but even though
A
it's
good starting point
constructive,
is when someone says, "Well,
but
no,
even
no,
though it's
look, hear this
constructive,
one."
go on.
I was going to just say, I was saying constructive, and but from the perspective of that person will tell you about you and be honest, even if you're offended. So if they
Hmm.
say, well, yes, they are, but do you know you add fuel to the fire because you do this, this, and this? That's
Hmm.
going to breathe that, and you
Yeah.
need to work on that aspect of you,
Hmm.
and then see if it works. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about that
Okay.
constructive criticism, that
Hmm.
they're honest with you as well
Yeah.
about you,
Yeah.
not just telling you about the him or the her, but because it's good for someone to tell me where I'm stepping wrong. No,
Well,
don't
like
step
what I
over
do.
there. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, over there you slip. Yeah, you'll slip if you step over there, and then you go over there and you slip. But but you've got the advice. Don't do that. But yet you
Hmm.
go and do it, and then you fell. So it's knowing that they've told you about you.
Yeah.
I want to know. Do you think that I could cause that?
Hmm.
I do that to you. What
Yeah.
do you think? And you'll say, yeah, well, yeah. If you
Yeah.
do that, then that will be the outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
and, I've,
it's up
and
to
and
you.
it's always necessary to have people around you who is going to tell you that your breath smells. Do you get what I mean? That you got spinach in your teeth. Do you get what I mean? That they're not smiling with you and seeing that you
Yeah,
got spinach in your teeth, that your breath smells, and they're not telling you. You do not want those kind of people around you. I want people who's
Debbie.
going to tell me that. Period. Sonia and Trevor both agrees with you. Sonia says
I
so true, Paul, and Trevor says only true friends can be the ones who
can
sorry,
be
who
honest
can be
about your
honest about
behavior.
your behavior. They're true people.
Absolutely.
Tell me that my breath
But
smells.
I could, there's certain people that I know that I couldn't tell them that their breath stink because
Why?
that I don't want them to, because I don't want them to talk to me anymore because it tink. Yeah. Yeah. I can't tell you because you're gonna have to respond, and then I'm gonna have to smell that. So best me, I say, yeah, good to see you, and I'm gone. Yeah, let somebody else tell you that your breath tink. Because
No, but I'm talking about the close people
no, I
that
know, I
yeah,
know. I'm
yeah,
only playing
I
because there
know.
are yeah,
But yeah, I just think I
there's
think
some
it's I,
thinking.
I think it's necessary that you have those kind of people around you, and I think that everybody does like to have
Yeah,
people around them who is going to be honest with them. But it depends. You've got your friends where if I go to that person, they're going to agree with me. And if I go to that person, they're not going to agree with me. And it depends on where your head is at. Do you know what I mean? Because you want to rant, you want to let off some steam, and you know that that person's gonna. Well, I've got friends, they let me let off the steam, and then they'll be like, "All right, then, Debbie, you finished? Okay." So you know when you said this, and I'm like, oh, like I genuinely do not have yes people around me. I
That
don't.
sounds like Claude. That
Yeah,
sounds like Claude. When you
me and
said that,
Claudia
that
do it all
sounds
the
like
time.
Claude.
We will have our rant. We will have our rant, and our conversation starts like, "Have you got 5 minutes? Because I just want to have a rant." Do you get what I mean? And we would just blow, and then afterwards it would be like, okay, so you know when you said that, you know, I was actually thinking, no, like I think that what you said or what you done there wasn't actually right. And sometimes me and her's like, me and you were going head, and I'm like, but Claude, listen, and she was like, I hear you, but do you know what I'm saying? And that's what I like. We will go like head to head, and then it's kind of like, but we do that all the time. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not always going to agree. And then she'll be like, sometimes she'll be like, all right, I'm just telling you. And I would do exactly the same. I was like, I'm just telling you, if you want to take it, you take it. If you don't want to, then you don't want to. Do you know what I mean? And then we just leave it there. But we know what the other person's saying, and that's what you actually need. You need people. I think that you need people who are going to help you as well get out of the toxic behavior that you can get yourself caught up in. Do you get what I mean? Why are you arguing with that person? Why are you debating with that person? Why are you going down that road with that person? And so, you know, next week we're hoping that we will be able to add more to this conversation. And in the meantime, I hope that you guys will share with people that we did part 1. We're going to do part 2, and for them to listen to part 1 and then join us next week for part 2. And yeah, hopefully we've got more people in the chat. We really appreciate you, Sonia, Trevor, and all of those that are listening that we don't know your names, but you're there in the background. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us next week. Really.
Absolutely. All right. So blessings and love to you all. Thank you, as Debbie said rightfully, for joining us at Gym Time. Get your motivation, and hopefully by God's grace, we'll be here next week.
Yeah, and I wanted to just put up this quickly. I can't. Is it on there? Hold on. Yeah. Share our channel with your people, and tell a friend to tell a friend. And also, we would love if you could just subscribe to our channel as well, because that really goes a long way to, you know, our messages going out. So subscribe, and please share.
I want to say thank you, and all you who recently subscribed that I spoke to, and you subscribed to the channel. I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. You know, sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long, but these are deep subjects that can encourage and empower us. I mean, really and truly, you know, if we really wanted, this would go on for hours and hours of trying to debate this subject or any other of the other ones. But thank you. You know who you are, that subscribed just recently, and I thank you for that as well. All right.
Okay. Thank you guys for the faithful ones that always jump on with us. We really appreciate your support. And Trevor and our cousins, all of our family, we really do appreciate it. And yeah, just continue to share the channel with other people and to subscribe. All right. So until next week, bye from me, and
yes,
and say bye from me.
Bye from me, Maurice.